basic short dough, one full recipe. So we got the butter, which we softened up in the microwave about 20-30 seconds just to get the chill off. We got our granulated sugar, and we're gonna go ahead and add our salt. And we're gonna mix this just till smooth. We're not trying to add air, we're just trying to get the products combined and smooth. So we're just gonna put this on 2. While that's mixing, we're gonna sift our flour onto a piece of parchment. So I'm going slow because it's not about adding air, it's about getting the product incorporated and smooth. Which it looks like it's there, so we're going to go ahead and slowly add the eggs. So add about half an egg at a time. Let it get absorbed. So you can go up to 3, it'll just help that eggs get absorbed a little bit easier. Air does help, but we don't want much air because of the type of cookie we're making. We want it to hold its shape. So again, air is the spot for steam to go into, which then creates leavening. So since we don't want a lot of movement, we don't want a lot of air. And add the vanilla. And we want to make sure we let this mix until it's smooth. Adding just enough air so it all comes together. So as soon as this looks smooth, I'm going to turn it off. And I shouldn't see moisture sitting on top of the butter, okay? It should be all incorporated. And again, the more air you add, the better it's going to be incorporated, which is what we need. Alright, so it's looking nice and smooth. So I'm going to add all of my flour. Save this parchment. Mix just till combined, okay? We even a little crumbly. So what you're going to do next is you're going to, bowl scraper is going to be the easiest tool to get this out. So we're just going to bring this together. I like it to be a little crumbly and so that you can see a little bit of flour on the dough. Because that means you didn't overmix it, which would give us a tough cookie. Okay, so as soon as it comes together, you're going to turn on your scale. You're going to see how much it weighs. I like doing grams. So 15 is 750, 775 should be half. So we're going to divide this in half. And it doesn't have to be perfect half, but you just want it to be really close. And then just to double check. You're going to take 2 pieces of parchment. And you're going to fold them in half. And you're going to take your dough. And each one of these doughs needs to be rolled exactly the same size as the half parchment. Okay? So that means you're going to do a lot of puzzle pieces. Okay? So make sure you release it from both sides of the parchment. Flipping it over. And if you need to move some dough because you got too much in one spot, go ahead and do that. Make sure your corners all match. Remember, keep the parchment down low. when you're pulling it off so you don't rip the dough. All right, I don't think you guys need to watch me do it. So you can get started. But literally, it needs to cover every single corner, okay? And then make sure it's level. Then you're gonna do the second one, and I'm gonna show you later how we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna wrap one up, we're gonna use one. Put it on a full sheet pan that's flat, because I don't want the corners to be bent at all. Put it on a full sheet pan that's flat and put it in the refrigerator until you're done with your eclair paste, okay? Okay, so for assembling the knockout cookies, all right? So the first note you should have is to make sure that you roll dough to corners of the parchment, all right? The next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna take a half a piece of parchment and fold it over. And then this is gonna be your template. And then you're gonna cut the dough in half. But you wanna make sure it is directly in half. So that's why we're using this piece of parchment folded over. So we know where exactly half is. Okay? So, and I can just cut through with my bench scrapers. I'm gonna flip it over, cut this side. Then the other, I'm gonna put half of it in the back in the refrigerator. So I'm only gonna work with half of it right now, okay? It's very important to make sure you keep the dough cold. So that's why we're keeping it in the refrigerator, all right? Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna release the parchment from one side. And you're gonna very lightly mark with the large cutting ring. Don't go through, we just want to have stencil, okay? So you're gonna very lightly mark the circles. And you're gonna make sure that you can see them and have them as close together as possible. So you're just a stencil so you know where the round is. And then you're gonna take the small one and you're gonna put that in the center. Then this one you wanna remove, okay? So you're gonna remove that dough. So make sure it's centered. And then remove the center of the dough. If it'll come up. If it doesn't come up, it's all right. But we'll remove it before we go to our next step. So the first marking with the large ring cutter was just so it was a guide for us to know where to take out the center. So you should have 15 all together. Now these next ones I need to take out the center before I can go to my next step. Make sure that you don't hurt the sides of the ring. All right, after you get this ready, you're gonna get the other half out of the refrigerator. So we're gonna pull off the parchment from one side. You're gonna egg wash the solid cookie. Alright, and now, since we didn't remove the parchment from the other side of this one, which is why our dough stopped, but it's gonna make this part easier. We're gonna take the holy one and put it on top of the solid dough. And also notice I got a little bit of extra dough over here. And I'm right up to the edge on this one. So I'm probably gonna off center it just slightly, just to make sure I have enough dough on the bottom. Okay? So I got the two together. I'm gonna press firmly to help them stick. The egg wash is your glue. It's gonna help it to stay together. So I'm rubbing it firmly to get them to stick. I'm going to flip over the dough and remove the parchment from the solid piece. I'm going to leave it on there. I'm going to put it back on and I'm going to flip the doughs together again. And I'm going to remove the parchment from the holy piece. Okay, it went to church. The holy piece. Praise the Lord. Okay, next, you're gonna egg wash the top, because if we don't, we're not gonna have a nice brown color. Be careful when you're egg washing this time that you don't get pools of egg in the holes, okay? So very lightly egg wash. And then you're gonna wet a piece of paper towel when you do this next part. So you're going to have your half sheet pan. You're going to take your large cookie cutter and you're going to center the small circle, press down, and then you should be able to, because we release the parchment, it should pick up the whole dough. And then you're going to go right on to your half sheet pan, okay? In between each cut, you're going to take your paper towel, especially with that egg on there, you're going to need to take the paper towel and clean the ring mold after each cut. Now these shouldn't expand too much, because remember we tried to be careful with how much air we added. That doesn't mean they won't expand at all. So you don't want them right on top of each other, but they can be kind of close. You have to make sure your dough is cold when you're doing this, otherwise you're going to lose the shape. You won't have the nice circles. Okay, so that's why we put half the dough back in the refrigerator while we were working with it. If for some reason when you go to work with this and the dough seems to be, especially this part when you're moving it and pushing it out of here, if you're losing your shape, it might be a better idea to pop it in the freezer for a couple minutes before ruining all your dough. I will be looking at the shape of the dough while you're for your grade. So not only the flavor, but also the shape. They should look exactly the same. The distance from the center to the edge should be the same all the way around, okay? So you see why it was important to roll the dough to the very edge, okay? And also with this now being double the thickness, your dough will really tell on you if you didn't roll it level. But you guys have rolled enough, you should be good with it by now. So wash these and then put them on my station. I'm going to put them in the oven to dry to make sure they don't rust, okay? Again, with this dough, you could technically roll it one more time and it'd probably be okay without it getting too terribly tough. All right, to finish these, what we're going to do is you're going to take the strawberry jam. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to fill the cookie, the small circle that we took out, we're going to put that much jam in, okay? So you're just gonna go around to the edge. Make sure you do not get up on the top edge, but it should fill it, okay? And then sometimes it didn't quite go to the very edge of the dough. So what I have is a little bit of water, and I'm just gonna put that on my finger to tap the jam down to make sure it gets to the edges and to make sure it's level. Okay? So this shouldn't take too long. Again, I will be looking to make sure that there's no jam on the edge of the dough, that the jam goes all the way to the inside edge. And it should fill just as if there was dough there. Okay? By doing it this way, at all these little steps, it makes it so that it's not very noticeable that you had 2 layers of cookie before. And it helps them to be nice and even. Alright, so next it goes into the oven. I'm gonna bake mine so you know what they look like.